Welcome to the Earthworks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hey everybody, Kevin Hicks here with Earthworks. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these, and so I thought I'd start off with a fun conversation with Mr. Zach Bauer, superintendent at Valley Country Club. I pushed him back an hour. I still feel bad about that, but hopefully we'll have a good conversation regardless of my tardiness. So Zach, thanks so much for jumping on with me today, and got kind of a list of questions, but it usually ends up going in a different direction by the time we're through it. So thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, always a pleasure.
Always. Awesome. Well, I want to start with I guess we'll start with where you're at, maybe kind of shift my list a little bit, but where you're at now, and then we'll kind of back into where you've been. You know, I don't know about education either, where you went to school. So tell me about that.
Okay. Well, currently at Valley Country Club in Centennial, Colorado. I've been here 3.5 years now. Got here in April of 18. So 3.5 years, almost 4 years. So yeah, it's a cool little private club. A lot of play for a private club. It's right. We're going to do close to 50,000 rounds this year in 7 months. So yeah, it's just it's a lot of play. These members out here really like to play golf. So
now, do you have a set open close date?
We don't.
You don't. I didn't think so.
No, if we're, it's Colorado, so you can get 60 degrees in middle of January here. Right. So if there's no snow on the ground, if there's no snow on the ground, we're pumping some rounds in January. I mean, yes, the turf is dormant, ground's frozen, but people still want to come out and play golf. So we don't have a firm open close date. But I mean, the majority of our play is from, April 1 through November 1. That's, 90% of our play is in those months. So
I used to call the guys on the shoulders of that, the have-tos. They just have to play. It's just kind of a bodily function, right? They just got to cross it off the list.
Yeah. No, it is. So, but yeah, no, winter golf in Colorado, it's hard as a rock, and everything's frozen, everything's dormant, everything's brown, but they still go out and hack it around a little bit. So
I can still remember early in the 90s when I was in the metro. I had never seen, because growing up in the Midwest, you were closed. Once the snow hit, that was the end of the season. And I still remember going out to could it have been Centennial Golf Course? It might have been one of the public courses in town. And it was right by my apartment. And I remember seeing 4 cups cut in the greens, and they just move them, because they cut them while the ground's not frozen. And then that gives them a little bit of latitude to move around. So that's kind of a different workaround on, like you said, winter play. There's no recovery, there's no growth. And you guys go a lot more dormant than we do here. I'm always amazed in the winter when I get out there for meetings, and it's just as brown as can be. And there's probably bluegrass is what's doing that, but interesting.
Yeah, it's just so dry, so much higher, just high in elevation, dry. Every bit of the leaf plant it just dries out. Basically, crown of the plant's still alive. It's not like we could spray Roundup on it, right?
Right.
It's not like you can't do that. You're still kind of green underneath, but yeah, we just get super dry. So.
It sounds as though you've maybe tried that. You sounded pretty sure you can't spray Roundup. Is that something maybe you hypothetically might have tried in the past and failed, or?
I've done it once just to see if it would survive, just a small little test plot, and it doesn't survive. So the crown of the plant is still kind of greenish.
I may have tried that once. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. That's good.
It's not like spraying Bermuda with Roundup in February.
Although I've seen my share of damage from not only Roundup but Progress too, when you think everything is stone dormant on Bermuda grass, and it doesn't work out very well. But let's chalk that one up to experience, right? Okay, so 3.5 years. So I know a little bit. You were at the Broadmoor before this.
Yes.
For how long?
I was at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, 5-star, 5-diamond resort 2 golf courses now. The third one's bye-bye. I was there for 12 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I was there from 2006 to 2018. 12 years and 1 month. So
and did you arrive there as one of the superintendents, or was that a promotion sometime in?
No.
Or?
So I moved. So I did a college internship there. Got to know, kind of the staff and the director of maintenance there, Freddie, who's kind of a Colorado legend. Freddie right. Dickman's kind of like this Colorado legend. So many superintendents have gone through the Broadmoor.
Sure.
But I did a college internship there back in 2003 with Steve Sorrow, who's at Pinehurst Country Club here in Denver. Jordan McCormick was his assistant, who's at Mariana Butte now, up near Fort Collins. And then kind of took off for 3 years back east, and then came back as an assistant for Jordan in 2006. I was living in Georgia at the time, so came back in 2006 and stayed through 2018. So got to see, my time at the Broadmoor was pretty spectacular. I got to see a lot of stuff going on. I mean, they weren't afraid to spend some money there. So 2008 U.S. Senior Open, 2011 U.S. Women's Open. I did a renovation with Landscapes Unlimited on the West Course, did all the bunker work on the West Course with Ron Force. Ron Force was our architect out of Pittsburgh area. Right. Just restoring Donald Ross stuff, and there on the West Course. So saw all the bunker work and a lot of tee work. We redid 3 greens while I was there. So and then we got, after 2011, we got the 2018 U.S. Senior Open, and I left. Not a lie, I told Freddie I was leaving for Valley Country Club 2 months before we were supposed to host a U.S. Senior Open.
Did you swing down to help him at all, or you just left him cold turkey?
I did. No, I did. I swung down and helped him out. I volunteered for him. I came back and worked for him for free. So but it was 2 months before the Senior Open. I had the opportunity. I had to take it.
When opportunity knocks, sometimes the timing isn't perfect, but you've got to take it. And you got a fun club. I think they've given you a lot of latitude, and you've earned it. And I think that's that's a feather in your cap. Every time I'm out there, you're doing something a little bit different, and we're going to get into what you're doing now. But so before Broadmoor, where were you?
Before Broadmoor, I was at a course called Governor's Town Club in Ackworth, Georgia. Okay. I was an assistant out there for about a year, and I'm originally from Georgia, so I'm from so Ackworth was it's about 25 minutes west of where I grew up. So I'm I grew up about 20 minutes east of there in Canton, Georgia. So I knew the area, and I had the opportunity to go back down to Georgia. So I was there for about a year at Governor's Town Club. And then prior to that, I was in Maryland, outside of Baltimore in Ellicott City, for 2 years. After my internship at the Broadmoor in 2003, I spent a couple of years in Baltimore at Turf Valley Resort. It's a 36-hole resort. Course with some memberships outside Baltimore, west of Baltimore. So spent a couple of years in the Mid-Atlantic, and before going to the Broadmoor and up to Maryland, spent my first 4 or 5 years in the industry in Georgia. So if
you can grow grass in those 2 places, Colorado's a pretty easy cakewalk, isn't it? From some respects anyway. Yeah. So the funny thing is, I worked at 4 courses in Georgia, in my, through college and whatnot. And then, did a couple of assistant jobs down there a little bit. Those 4 courses I worked at, they all have bent grass greens. Wow. But when I moved out to Colorado in 2006, that was about the time Eastlake started converting over to Bermuda grass, and then everybody started converting to friggin' Bermuda grass, and now everybody's getting off from work at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon because they got Bermuda grass greens. Right. And I missed out on that. I was all bent grass greens down in Georgia, 4 different places. There's not many left either, are there?
No, I mean, we had G2 greens at the first course I worked at. We had Pencross at another course. We had A1, A4 at one course I worked at. And then another one, L93.
Wow.
So it was just like, yeah, I mean, wilt watching until 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night sometimes.
Okay, you could go home for a couple hours, but make sure you're back first thing in the morning to start all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. That's how I kind of came up in the industry, was doing the wilt watching thing. And one of my superintendents I worked for was he was a disciple of Marcus Soda at Atlanta Country Club.
Yep.
And he had a unique way of using a watering can. Instead of dragging a hose, you went out and hot spotted with a watering can.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and and we never pulled a hose on greens, because you go out there and wilt watch small softball sized patches, and then use your watering can to water those, and never pull a hose, because again, you're pulling a hose, high humidity in Georgia, high temperatures, you create disease pressure, right?
Yeah, invariably you're going to water more than you need. That was probably a function of just keeping you guys reined in. This is all you get, this little bucket. That's it.
Yeah, you get a 2-gallon bucket. So, but no, I mean, freaking doing that whole deal down in Georgia, and then again when I left to come to Colorado, everybody started converting to Bermuda. I was like, well, I missed that one.
Right. Well, you're better off for it, but so are they at this point. So that's a good thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. So
yeah, and boy, the Ultradurfs are so darn good now. It's just amazing how what a surface they can prepare. Charlie at Eastlake was an intern of mine, and I haven't had a chance to go down and visit him, but man, that surface for the players is unbelievable. It's just beautiful. Spot.
It is. I've had the opportunity to play, on some Ultradurf, last 2019 at the Orlando show.
Yep.
We took the clubs down and played some places down there in Orlando, and then back in 2016. I believe it was, me and my old boss, Jordan, we had an intern who was the superintendent at Atlanta Athletic Club. So we played the Highlands course. And they had Ultradurf on the Highlands course. So yeah, it was super cool to, the technology now, the geneticists that they're doing, or geneticize it, whatever, with the Ultradurfs is freaking phenomenal.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So are you a Bulldog? You Georgia Bulldog?
I'm not a Bulldog. So I went to Abraham Baldwin College down in South Georgia.
So I didn't offend you by asking you that.
No, okay. I'm not. All right. So, no. So no, I'm a Abraham Baldwin alum. And I also went to Kennesaw State University, which is up north, as well. Did some stuff up, did some time in there too. But yeah,
degrees, or something different.
What's that?
What, turf degree or something different?
Oh, business.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. So just business classes, just, doing extra, just doing more business type stuff.
Sure.
Up there. So, but yeah, like going to Abraham Baldwin, we were right next to the experiment station where Dr. Wayne Hanna geneticized all the hybrid Bermudas.
Oh, the Tifton research facility. Sure. Yeah.
So I going through school, it was all, I learned all about every type of Bermuda, St. Augustine, centipede. That's what we had. That's what I studied.
Very cool.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. And, again, Dr. Hanna was right next door, and, you ever hear, Tiffway 419, Tiff Grand, Tiff Eagle. Well, it's all in Tifton, Georgia.
Right.
So
it was right there. Opportunity.
Yeah, it was all right there next to the school.
Very cool. And that school had a turf program?
Yeah.
Okay. So you did your business up north, and the turf program was okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So You've been at it 3 years, 3.5 years, and I've known you, I think, since we met maybe at the delegates. We were both chapter delegates, right? And that might be the first time that we met. But I've kind of been visiting you on and off through the years since I joined Earthworks, and you pretty much hit the ground running. I mean, they kind of had a plan. They had stuff moving already, and you jumped in and haven't really stopped. I mean, you've been doing all kinds of improvements. So what I know you're working on irrigation. What else have you been up to since you've joined Valley Country Club?
Oh, well, just so much.
You want to just tell me what you haven't done, and we get back into it that way?
Yeah, just a lot. It's just been a lot. I think probably the hardest thing I've done here since coming to Valley is just kind of changing over into my culture, right? So just changing into my kind of culture, my management style, what I expect out of, the assistants or the mechanic and, the rest of the crew. So, and that's not something that just happens overnight.
No.
So,
and we're going to spend some time on that too. So I've got to get some of that out of you before we're done here. So
yeah, so I think that was definitely one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Just doing that. But since I've been here, I've done, we finished off an irrigation renovation last year. Did that. We did 2-wire HDPE, Link Smart modules. So the new 2-wire decoder system from Toro, installed that throughout the golf course. The previous superintendent had done the irrigation renovation on the upper 9 holes before
Right.
I was here.
Right.
So I got to do the lower 9 holes during my time last year.
Yeah.
And then last year as well, we did a $1.5 million tennis court renovation. So redoing all our tennis courts, adding in two more tennis courts, doing more, adding in pickleball courts. So I guess, that's a big thing nowadays is
dedicated on those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Dedicated pickleball courts. And then, adding in all the, landscaping at the end of it and irrigation at the end of it and everything like that. So doing that project. And then, the club's just doing, just really getting into a really good, just motivation right now, just trying to knock out some big projects and,
right.
Keep everybody around, and just really do a good job with the membership. We just started another big project this month, September. I already think it's October. But we just started a big project this month as well, relining 6 acres of ponds, adding in, recirculation pump, new water feature, creek in between a couple of the ponds.
Right.
Doing some bunker work right now, doing also some T work, rerouting some cart paths. And then on top of that, the club has started a massive fitness center, outdoor dining /bar /kitchen and infinity pool project that they just broke ground on today.
Wow.
So that's about a $9 million project that we just started up there. So they just started ripping stuff out today. We got, what do we have? $10.5 million, $11 million worth of projects going on right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just constantly busy. We're going. It's just constantly busy.
Membership is full, right? I think we've talked about it. I mean, like a lot of clubs, the membership has been super strong in the last couple of years. There was one good thing to come out of all this COVID garbage. It's the fact that golf has really had a boost as a result of it. So
it has. So that's been. I mean, we had a really good retention because we did an assessment on the members for this $10 million project. Basically, we did an assessment on the membership and we lost very few.
Okay.
And they had them, they gave them some payment options on, how long they could pay or, just different options for each member. Our retention was excellent. during that time. And I mean, we're doing 200 to 300 rounds a day.
God,
So
unbelievable.
They're busy. It's busy. The membership is playing. They love the course. So, we're just trying to fit our maintenance practices into that
Right.
200 rounds a day. It can be pretty tough. So, but no, I mean, the membership has been great. They want to see the place get better. I know that they want to do, our cart paths, currently our cart paths they're done. They're old. They're, crumbling. They're old asphalt.
Yeah.
So they're talking about what?
Say no more. If they're asphalt, they need to go.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible surface, especially with all the cottonwoods and shallow rooted trees you've got on that property. That's a mess.
Exactly. So they're looking at, doing cart paths here in the next couple of years. Getting our asphalt cart paths ripped out, hopefully going to concrete.
Right.
Doing that project. They got some other projects they have on the works on the golf course. So no, I mean, it's fun.
So what's the process for your club? Are you working with an architect, or are you, working through a master plan that was already in place when you got there, or how does that work with your club?
Yeah, we have a consulting architect. It's Rick Phelps.
Okay.
Out of Colorado here.
Yep.
His dad was an architect.
Right.
Rick's the past president of the association of course, whatever the AS.
Right. The Architects
Whatever,
Association. Yep.
Yeah, the Architect Association. He's a past president. So he lives here in, up near Boulder area. And
Rick's brother Scott's a superintendent in the area too, right?
Yeah, he was a longtime superintendent up in Seattle.
Yeah.
At Newcastle, I believe.
Newcastle. You got it.
Yeah. So, but he's a Colorado guy. Scott was raised here with his brother here in Colorado,
right.
But he's up in city of Fort Collins now.
Right.
So yeah, he's up there. So, but yeah, Rick's been doing the master plan here for, I gotta say, since 2008, 2009 time frame. So just, they've been working on it when they can, doing bunkers. The club redid their bunkers back in 2014. And really changed up the architecture a little bit from what it used to be. It used to be very, the original architect was Billy Bell Jr. All right. So, and we, Billy Bell, the junior, he was Torrey Pines. That's his big, kind of his big name to fame, whatever. And then his dad obviously worked with, McKinsey and Thomas out there in California.
Right.
And his old man did the Stanford Club. So, Billy Bell did the first, did the, original 18 here, Billy Bell Jr. And then, other architects came in. I know like Bill Love did some work out here. I think he's out of Maryland. He was with Alt Clark and Associates, I think, out of Maryland.
Okay.
He did some work out here for the one of the previous superintendents. And the bunkers, they still had some sort of bell shape to them, but a lot of them just became big potato chip bunkers and
Right.
whatnot. And Rick came back in 2014 and redid the bunkers here. And the shaper was Forrest Fessler. So he
really?
Wow. Yeah, he was actually, Forrest Fessler was actually the shaper prior to his death. He was the shaper here. And, I would say the bunkers are, they have the rolled edges, high flashing and whatnot. So the course has a kind of a, California feel to it.
Sure.
I feel it has one of the, that California type feel. I know a lot of architects are doing the rolled edges these days.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that sort of look. But it kind of just, we're the only bell course in Colorado. So I just feel like it has kind of that California feel to it, which is kind of cool, kind of unique. So, yeah.
Okay. And the, you post a lot on Twitter and the fescue brows. Is that kind of one of your touches, or was that something that Rick influenced, or how does that work? Because they look great.
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah.
And how has it gone over with the membership?
I've gotten a lot of compliments.
Good.
I've only had 2 negatives about the eyebrows.
Okay.
So back when they redid the bunkers here in 2014, they used RTF fescue. So rhizomatous tall fescue.
Yep.
So, and it, man, game changer. I love this stuff. I mean, if I could use RTF or, if I could use RTF across the entire golf course except the fairways, I would.
Right. How come?
It is just, huh?
What do you like about it? What's so good? I know it grows slowly, so it's a little bit easier to maintain. What else?
The drought resistance is off the charts.
Okay.
I mean, it is off the charts compared to bluegrass. Off the charts.
Was it originally sodded around the bunkers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, it was originally sodded. And so back in 2014, they used RTF around all the bunkers. And then I just, we have some issues out here in Colorado, high faces, flash sand, a lot of our south facing bunker slopes just burn out. Like it doesn't matter how much winter watering we're doing. We just can't get water to hold up there. We've tried granular wetting agents, tried, regular wetting agents. It's just really tough. So, my first thought process was just to let these things grow out and get kind of fluffy on these south facing bunker slopes, just to see, just see how we make it through the winter. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be more, susceptible to desiccation with that much leaf blade? And, are we going to have a little bit, is it going to be protected a little bit more? Is that crown of that plant going to be protected compared to mowing it at 2 inches or 1 inch and 3/4, going into winter? So, but it was my idea. Also just the amount of labor, we have to fly mow all our bunkers and string trim the edges. And, so yeah, it was kind of a dual thing, labor savings and, trying to save them through the winter.
So that tall seed head that you post pictures of, that's tall fescue that's throwing a seed head like that?
It is.
Wow.
And I got a lot of great seed out of it, because that was one of the only negatives I've had so far, is how much seed germinated in the darn bunkers.
Oh, sure.
That was the only bad thing. So we went out there, with Roundup and, used some Roundup all that seed, but it produced seed. And, the leaf blade on that stuff, we didn't mow it all year, 6 to 8 inches tops. And
wow.
then the seed head, you're looking at a 12 to 16 inch seed head.
Right.
And that's not mowing it all year. So
that's impressive. Yeah. I wonder, I wonder, and I'm sure the plant breeders would be able to answer this, but I wonder if that seed is still RTF. I would assume so, right?
I would assume.
Interesting. Wow. I did not realize. I thought it looks a lot like fine fescue, at least the pictures you posted online. It looks awesome. So what other grass types are you working with? Fairway.
It's a Heinz 57.
Right.
It's anything and everything under the sun.
Except for the Ultradurfs that you never got to grow in Georgia, right?
Oh, I have Bermuda.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely have some Bermuda out there. We got, greens are bentgrass and POA mixture. So really good amount of bentgrass out there on the greens. I'd say 65-70% bent. The POA is definitely the perennial POA that you see common, pretty common in Colorado. Don't get a lot of seed heads in the spring. It's really nice. I don't get a lot of seed heads. I get a lot of seed heads in the fairways. But if you knew, like Billy Bell, there's a lot of bent grass out here as well. Billy Bell used to put a lot of like colonial type bent around his greens.
Okay.
Because he had a lot of shortcut around his greens. So we got a lot of bent grass around our greens out here, and you can actually see some of them that some of the greens have shrunk in a little bit, and you can see with it was looking at old aerials, you can see where the greens used to go on some areas. And but it's a Heinz 57. Like I said, we got turf type RTF fescue on the bunkers. We have our fairways are ryegrass, bluegrass, POA, bentgrass. So it's
and the club's it's not new, right? Is it 50 years old?
Around 60.
60?
So
Yeah, okay.
1956.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, 1956, a little
Yeah.
over 60 years. So
you're going to have a Heinz 57. I would assume the perennial biotypes of POA on the greens is just a result of, such open winters. The bent grass has definitely got an advantage if you don't have snow cover. How often do you have snow cover, and how often are you just wide open? Because the wind moves pretty good and it's dry as a bone in the wintertime. Is it just a crapshoot?
it is. I mean, I know like early winter, like November, December, into early January, I feels like early winter out here, I don't see any, like we don't have any snow. Like we'll get one or two couple of snowstorms and they melt off fairly quickly. So we don't have a lot of snow cover early on. I feel like that's kind of the trend. And then later on, once we get into mid-January to February timeframe, that's when we get a little bit more snow cover.
Sure.
But even then, I don't see, last year was kind of interesting. I was talking to someone just recently about this, about how last year we really didn't see a lot of snow throughout the entire winter. It was like 1 inch every 2 weeks.
Right.
That was it. But it was almost perfect because it'd take about 2 weeks to melt off, and then we get another inch, and then it'd take another like 10 days to melt off. And it was perfect because, Colorado, if you're not getting snow, you're winter watering.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about how important it is to winter water in Colorado.
Well, all right. So here's your chance. Talk about it. Did you account for that in the irrigation renovation? I mean, do you have a frost-free line that runs through the golf course?
So we don't have a dedicated frost-free line. Our main line is deep enough, so our main line is live year round.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that typical? Is that typical in the metro?
Yeah, heck, I think most places nowadays, they don't even blow out; they'll just drain. Okay. So we're just not getting the winters like this, Colorado used to get.
Sure.
A lot of places just drain nowadays.
Okay.
But there's plenty of guys who still blow out. But we did. So I did account for those 9 holes that I did last year. I did account. I have winter hydrants on all the fairways, all the greens. On that, we got about 36 winter hydrants on 8 holes down below, which is huge. It's, winter watering is winter. I think getting through winter in Colorado is the hardest thing you can do in Colorado.
For sure.
It's just, if we're not getting snow, it's, high skies with the sun, with the wind, being at elevation, being, close to 6,000 feet. It's a huge advantage to have some sort of winter watering system, winter hydrants. You'll see guys out there with winter watering tanks. I mean, we water bunker faces with a tank. We have, if anybody sees me on Twitter once a year, a couple times a year, you'll see us in the winter on our upper holes that don't have hydrants on the fairways. You'll see us with Frank the tank. We fill up 1,000-gallon water tank in our dump truck and go out there, and we're just driving down the fairways, just trying to keep the crown of the plant hydrated.
Right.
It doesn't take much water, but you definitely need to put the water out there. It's just, if you're not getting snow cover, the amount of desiccation that you can get is just insane. Yeah. So, it dries out so fast. So I think that's the biggest thing that people, I don't think, understand about Colorado. You might be out there winter watering when it's 35 degrees out, just because you got to get some moisture on the crown of the plant to keep it from desiccating out on you.
So what's the feel on that? Again, there's a lot of guys in different parts of the country that this is such a foreign concept. So do you work off of moisture meter numbers, or do you just work off of feel, or the historic precipitation? What's the decision making process to know that Frank the tank's got to go out?
It's almost, you can't get a moisture meter in the ground, right? Because the ground's frozen. So sure. You're not working off of moisture in the ground. So a lot of times it's based on feel, and just that if you're getting out there once a week, 7 to 10 days out there, that's kind of my going going forward.
Okay.
getting out there every 7 to 10 days, especially on fairways or tees. And you get to know, like, once you're out here and you're on your facility for a while, you kind of get to know, like, this certain tee box fries.
Right.
We need to hit this. We need to hit this tee box twice a week. Or like, crowns of certain greens, or bunker faces. Like bunker faces we'll do twice a week. If we're not getting snow, we'll do bunker faces twice a week. Sure. Just because we can definitely, there's no water holding capacity on slopes and whatnot. So, we'll definitely go around and hit bunker faces quite a bit more often if we're dry. And we just have one guy dedicated to that, all the time, just every day, just going out in winter water.
And you said you installed 36 hydrants on 8 holes. Was that?
Yes.
Was that right? Okay. Yep. So explain what a hydrant is and how you use it. Go ahead and explain it. And how, are you using hoses, or are you actually keying in like
it's just a frost,
like a water cannon, or what?
It's a coupler that you get, right?
Sorry, say that again. I lost you.
But it's 3/4 inch quick coupler. And you have the ability to, turn it off at the from the main line. And then from there, you have the ability to, water whatever you need to water. Yeah. So again, the winter hydrants, it's a simple quick coupler. It's just like the same quick couplers that you use out on course. And you can hook those up to a roller base. You can hook them up to, micro spinners. You can use just a hose with a regular nozzle on it, right? Okay. So it just depends on how you want to get some water out there. And we're an older style course, so I have winter quick couplers on all the greens, so I can usually get to all the tees off those winter quick couplers on those greens too. So which gives me a good advantage. But again, that's gonna and it you just pull that right off the main line. It's separate off the main line, and you have the ability to turn that valve off when you're done. And then there's a drain plug on the quick coupler setup, so you can switch a drain and it can get that quick coupler to drain out on you, so it doesn't freeze overnight. So, but yeah, it's pretty simple.
So do you typically isolate your laterals in the fall and then leave them and either blow them out or leave them off, or how does that work? Because obviously with no snow cover, you're exposed, and you're gonna freeze a lot of components if you don't blow that portion of the system out, right?
Yeah, so I haven't blown out in 2 years.
At all.
We've drained down the past 2 years. We are all HDPE.
Right.
So I think the components that are, it's plastic parts, right? It's your swing joint and your head.
Yep.
And last year we lost one swing joint across the entire place, and we got down to -10 as our lowest low, with just draining out. So, we're just not seeing, and again, we're not seeing the amount of freeze in the ground anymore in Denver.
Yep.
In the winter. Whatever debate you want to have on climate or whatnot, I don't really care.
Sure.
It's just, we're just not seeing the ground freeze that much anymore. We're not seeing it freeze 18 inches. So, we're saving that money on a compressor. And just, we've had the ability to just drain out every year. And with HDPE, you definitely, that stuff stretches, that can, has a rating of 900 PSI.
Right. Good luck with that.
Yeah. You're not going to break it. Right. It bends, it'll, oval out on you. Like it's just not going to break that. So, and I was definitely worried with the plastic parts, right? The plastic swing joints, the plastic heads. We lost one swing joint and one head.
You could, I could vouch for this. You could lose more than that in the blowout process. So it's probably a pretty good calculated risk on your part.
It is. And, I've had people ask me too about like, oh, well, what about, you got water left in the canisters, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but even if you blow out, you can get 10 inches of snow, right? You get 10 inches of snow, you get a 65-degree day in January.
Right.
Those canisters are filling up.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
And there's still air, even if there's water in there, there's still plenty of airspace for that to expand, and it's never going to do any damage.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not getting past the foot valve.
Right.
It's not getting past the foot valve, but those, the canisters are still going to, in through your head, they're still going to leak in there and whatnot.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's really, I don't think it's really worth it.
Yeah.
So
no, that's interesting. Again, even in the northern climes, I don't think a lot of superintendents really realize that that's even an option, right?
Mm-hmm.
To just leave it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, I do have the, now if I was full PVC all the way around.
Yeah. I
don't know if I'd be.
Right. You're probably going to think about it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah. Peace of mind of blowing out.
Yeah.
Be a lot better.
Yeah. All right. I want to shift gears because this I think is certainly this subject. It's kind of like COVID. This subject of labor and retention, hiring, it dominates all the conversations in the industry. And I know you've had some successes, and that's not a real common thing these days. And so I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, you mentioned it early on, that was kind of job one when you got there, is to build a culture. So tell me about what that entails, when you bring on, and I, I'll use your Twitter feed because it's so informative, but you had a couple of posts recently in the last week or two where you had a staff member, not an assistant or anything, but a staff member, a loyal guy that had been there for a number of years, who was moving on, and you highlighted him. And, to me, I never said anything to you on that, but to me, that really typifies that culture sort of concept and what you're trying to do there. And, really, really recognize those guys, even though they're maybe not super key members, but recognizing them just as importantly as anybody else. So tell me what some of your tricks of the trade are.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really have to give a lot of credit to our first assistant, Rob. Okay. I mean, he has really done an amazing job bringing on some really great people. What we did, the last couple of years, labor's tough. Okay, labor is super tough. It's hard to find people. Not everybody wants to get up at 4:30 in the morning and work in the heat. It's tough, right? And a lot of times you can find, better paying jobs. I'm not going to lie, you can find those better paying jobs sometimes. Than what golf courses pay at. But there are benefits to working on a golf course than working in Target, right?
For sure. Preaching the choir here.
Yeah. So, but I got to give a lot of credit to our first assistant, Rob. He's done an amazing job the last couple of years. We have I would say our mow crew, as we would say, our mowing guys, they're retirees. A lot of guys, worked. One of our retirees, John, he was in the, U.S. Air Force for 35 years, something like that. 30 years. He was up here at Buckley Air Force Base and, got out, was done, retired. Now he comes out here and mows. We just put an ad out. We got him a couple years ago. And put an ad out in the fall, I think August timeframe. Needed someone to just mow greens, and he's been here ever since, and he loves it, right? And he's always here, and he, we keep him on in the winter. He works about 20-25 hours a week. We keep him on in the winter just to hear his stories.
Well, that's great.
The guy, I mean, granted, we do put him to work, and we have plenty of work for him to do for those 20-25 hours a week. But it is great to hear. Like he's been to like 70 countries or something ridiculous. Like he was in Iraq, and he was in, all like Qatar and all these places. And he always has some really great stories. But we have a lot of retirees. We got a old city of Denver schools retired, retiree. We got an old steel worker, union steel worker that's working for us, retiree. So yeah, I got a lot of guys that kind of come in, and do a lot of the mowing for us, right? Do it, mow our fairways, mow our roughs, greens, tees, that sort of stuff. And these guys, I mean, they're great. They're wonderful.
Right.
They're just, it's just, and they all work about 20, 25 hours a week, so we're, they're doing something to keep it, to stay engaged and, whatnot. And we, have fun and, work with a bunch of, good guys and crew and whatnot. So, and I seem to think they like it because they always have a smile and they're always great.
So are you flexible with their schedule, with the retiree schedule, or are they a 6 to 2:30 or 6 to 11 o'clock sort of shift only?
They're kind of just the normal. It's just 6 to 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So, they can, and with so much play, I mean, again, 200 to 300 rounds a day,
we try to get
everything. We really try to go early in the morning, try to get everything done ahead of play as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that's, yes, it is early mornings for them, but I mean, we're always just trying to do everything ahead of play as much as possible.
Right.
And then Rob, our first assistant, Rob, last couple of years has done an amazing job with going after high school golf teams.
Okay.
Around the area. So we got 3 high school golf teams, 4 high school golf teams within our little reach here at Valley Country Club. And just calling the coaches. So,
great idea.
So calling the coaches up saying, hey, we have positions available, would any of your guys like to play? On the flip side of that, all your guys can play the course for free.
So you can grant them access to the golf course.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we try to do it as much as we, physically can, as much as possible. Getting them golf whenever we can, because their coaches are like, oh, well, okay, they can play it at a private club for free and make a little money. So they, and we've done really well the last, Rob, again, he really reached out to those golf teams and has done really well the last couple of years with that. We've had 3 guys that have worked for us for 3 years now, going on 3 years.
Right.
We've seen these kids grow up from freshmen in high school. Now they're going to be seniors in high school. Doing that, having that opportunity. We got a couple more this year from another high school. And they already said they want to come back. They loved it. They absolutely loved it.
And if you're lucky, you can keep a couple of those through college and have them come back in the summertime. So I mean, we looked at the same thing, and in theory, you could get 6 or 8 years out of a guy pretty easily if you get him started early enough.
Exactly, and then hopefully they tell their buddies.
Right.
They're telling their friends, and that's what happened. That's what's kind of happened is that they tell their friends that they got a job at a golf course with free golf. And we got one kid who is going to got a golf scholarship for college this year. And he's off in Nebraska right now. I think Concordia in I think it's Concordia in Omaha.
Yep.
He's on a golf scholarship for school, and he was like, he already wants to come back for his fall break and work again in fall break.
That's awesome.
In October. And he wants to come back next year, and he told one of his friends. So one of his friends came and worked for us this summer. So it's been a really good avenue for us to really go after some of these high school golf teams. And
and you build a pipeline of them. I mean, especially if you get in with the coaches, that's a great solution to that.
Right.
At least to that piece of the puzzle, right?
Right. So, and I think, talking with Rob and talking with our other assistant, Andy, I think one of the things that we're only doing, our potential is only 50%.
Right.
On that. Right.
Right.
Because we're actually thinking about going after the high school girls golf teams.
Yeah.
As well.
Perfect. It's a great idea.
And get some, not just going after the guy, the male golf teams, but going after the, asking the female golf teams as well. If we get 1 or 2 come out, rake bunkers, string trim, not doing anything, treating them just the same as, the guys,
right.
And then giving them free golf. right? If they want free golf. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and it's worked really, really well for us.
And that's a pretty wide mix of, do you mix the staff then? I mean, you've got retirees, you got their kids or grandkids age members of the crew. Are they all working together, or do you kind of separate duties a little bit?
No, they're all working together. Everybody's a team, right?
Awesome.
So they're all working together. Everybody's communicating with everyone, each other. So yeah, and it's been really good for us. And I got to give a lot of credit to Rob, our assistant, because I kind of put that on him to go after and find the crew. Right. Okay. That's what when I was at the Broadmoor, I did a lot of that. I went after and found interns and, did that whole thing and found the seasonal staff and, whatnot. And I've had plenty of years doing that. And I, putting that on the assistant, I think it's really good for them later on in their career. They'll know exactly how to go about it when they're superintendents.
Well, and the reality too is that they're doing the schedule by and large. They're doing discipline if it's necessary. They're assigning daily jobs. So why wouldn't you have them do the job of bringing the people in that they want? I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So and then we got lucky too. I will say we got lucky. We had our past president from 2 years ago now. Our past president said he had his sons. Like we were having that was kind of back in 2019 when Rob had just started, and we were kind of building up to what we are now. We were still having trouble trying to find people, and our past president said that he had 2 sons that didn't have jobs and they could work. And members' kids were never allowed to work at the club. Like it was just kind of it was a rule, but it was kind of unwritten. It was kind of like no members' kids can never work at the club.
But not the dumbest rule in the world, because of a lot of conflict, right?
Yeah. So it just got to a point where we just couldn't really find some people. Yeah, sure. But and we ended up taking on 2 of his sons, and one of his sons was in my Twitter post. It was Jack, and he was Arizona State alum, so he was down at Arizona State, got a degree in engineering. I don't know what it was, like fluid dynamics or something.
Wow.
Something really crazy and cool. He wanted to do some work for Boeing or Lockheed or something like that. But he's going to be, and he got a job in software engineering right in Denver Tech Center. So, but he's been working for us for 3 years, and his brother Scott came on the same year. And he's still got 1 more year of, he's at, I don't know what college it is. It's in Chicago. Okay. And he's on the lacrosse team there. But just having those guys, and then, well, guess what? Their younger brother came on this year. So nice. Their younger brother, who was 15, came on this year with us. So we had all 3 of them this year. And then last year too, we had another member's kid, Bill. And he was great. And I think, I know there can be some conflict there with having members' kids, but the members, they're like, hey, if my son isn't cutting it, you need to let me know.
Right.
Because they want to see them succeed and everything, and see them do well. And also, it kind of helps with a little bit of accountability too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So no, it absolutely fantastic. I mean, the last couple of years here, again, just building up, my thought process on the culture and, accountability, and just fun, just, everybody having fun, everybody working towards a common goal. Right. So, yeah.
But that's the key. And sometimes we get so busy that we forget about that, but that is absolutely the key. 'Cause, like you said, there are other vocations, even at this level that are not as difficult and aren't exposed to the elements. But if you create an environment that's enjoyable to show up to every day, retention becomes a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
It does. And, honestly, we barely had anyone show up late. Like no one I'm shocked at how good, whatever generation it is. I don't know, Z or what have you.
One of the alphabet.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Whatever the high school and college kids are these days. Yeah. Anyways, they're not showing up late and they're working hard and they
Good.
want it's really cool to see. They're a lot different than my generation. I don't know. I always get, I'm a millennial.
Well, I wanted to tap into your experience because I consider you the generation behind me in superintendents. So it's all relative, but yeah, you're right. You're bridging probably close to boomers in your retirees. I mean, they got to be right on that cusp, right? So you've got at least 3 generations that you're dealing with, and that's good stuff, man. That's awesome. So okay, so I want to ask a question, and I don't know if you've got my questionnaire in front of you, but like I mentioned earlier, we met as delegates, chapter delegates years ago. Where do you see this industry going? I'm going to shift a little bit, but where do you see the industry going as kind of, I consider you the leader in one of the leaders in your generation as superintendent, and it's probably close to a generation behind me. I just had an opportunity to play with the one of the past presidents of GCSA. He was the president in 81. So when I was just getting into the business, he was serving as president, and he said, I think it's, there's nothing but upside to what we're seeing right now. And so I'm curious how you see it, since you've been pretty intimately involved both at the chapter level and also at the national level. What do you see coming? Or, is recruiting for assistants going to continue to be difficult, or is that just kind of a cyclical thing that we're going through right now?
I think it's, what I see coming is that I think you're going to see a lot more people with a lot like analytical, right? I see a lot more, you see these guys, and I'm kind of a mixed, I grew up in the old school type stuff, I learned a lot of stuff from the old school superintendents, and then nowadays you're seeing a lot of this stuff where, the data collection, right? Right. So, the data collection and, the clipping volume and a lot of this, and GPS spraying, sure. All the, a lot more technology. I think what's going to happen in the next generation of superintendents is that you're going to see a lot more analytics, right? And how we do things. And I'm sure, there's always been the analytical type, right? But I think it's going to be a lot more tech savvy. You're going to see a lot more tech savvy superintendents coming on doing, robotic mowing. Right. That's like robotic mowing is going to happen. Right. It's just, how does it get there? Is it going to get there with fairway mowers? Is it going to get there with rough mowers? How does that happen? And when you start getting into that type of technology, are you going to need as many people hand raking bunkers every day? You're going to need another thing. I think you're going to see a lot more of is, and I think it's probably a little bit more worrisome than assistant superintendents, is the darn equipment managers. Yep. I agree. How many equipment managers do you see coming out of school? You don't really see it, right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys go into kind of get into equipment managers, turf equipment managers via another avenue. Yeah. Right. You see it coming out of the car industry or the diesel mechanic industry, where they kind of, I could do that. And they kind of float in. But man, like the mowers, the robotic mowers, the GPS type stuff with the sprayers, the drone technology that you're seeing now with the NDVI and the heat-seeking missiles they have on those things nowadays, and the freaking cameras, and I think I saw they were spraying pesticides with them. Right. Even the hybrid mower technology. I mean, that's a totally different skill set than was required 10 years ago. Right. So you're right. I think that's going to be a challenge, and hopefully we're up for it. Yeah, and I think the equipment manager side of it is potentially a little bit less or a little bit more worrisome as far as filling those voids.
Right.
With the amount of computers that you see in your mowers nowadays. Again, I mean, I've always said like, if I'm the superintendent, my right hand is my assistant, right? That's my right hand. My left hand though is my darn equipment manager.
100%.
And I know enough about equipment where I can kind of get by. I remember seeing that tweet from Matt Schaefer, how 1 to 10, how good are you?
Right.
Equipment.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
I'll give myself
Lord,
a solid 5 on a good day.
I might be a 2.
Yeah. Like how good a welder are you, right? Well, it'll hold together, but it ain't gonna be pretty.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, man, I can do everything. I can do everything my assistant does, right? I can go spray greens. I can, I can do everything. I can't do everything my equipment manager does.
I agree.
Like I can't. I can't do it. I don't have that type of training. So I think the equipment manager thing is huge. I think that is something that the national organizations, the local organizations probably need to kind of hone in on and focus. I think the assistant superintendents that are out there, I think, yes, we're in that cyclical pattern where, we went through a really bad, 10 years or so with, 12 years with the, and the 08 recession.
Right.
People are not coming into the industry as much as they were. And I think that was a big wake up call, just because you see it a lot more now about people having good, work-life balance. I think that has been really good. It started happening about, it started the conversation about 7 to 8 years ago, right? We started having that tough conversation about, hey, you know what? People are leaving the industry because they are just getting worked to death.
Yep.
And they feel undervalued. Like, people are leaving the industry because of that. I'm not afraid to work. And I know a lot of people aren't afraid to work, but it's kind of a holistic thing, right? You got to have multiple things to make everybody happy: benefits and pay, and time away for family and whatnot, and peace of mind and health, healthy mentality. And we started seeing that 7 to 8 years ago, right? 6 to 8 years ago, whatever.
Yep.
And I think a lot of superintendents are realizing it, right? And you see a lot better, I think, now. You see it a lot. I feel like you see it a lot better now, where, guys are definitely, and girls are definitely getting into this mentality. And,
right.
Again, and then COVID happened, and then golf went up,
yep.
right? So it's the same thing as you see, it's the same thing you see in nature, right? You got a billion rabbits outside. Well, the fox population goes up. Well, when they eat all the damn rabbits,
exactly.
the fox population goes down, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of this ebb and flow thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think people are, and I've seen some people also tweeting out there, some professors saying that their numbers are up as far as, the last 2 years. Their numbers are up with people going to, people getting into school for this.
Some of that could be just attrition of the programs. I mean, I was just talking with a professor on the West Coast, and she was basically lamenting the fact that aside from Oregon State, there's really no land grant universities with turf programs left. She was involved with Walla Walla Community College most recently, but has just announced her retirement. So yeah, I think some of that is because we've distilled the programs down to just, far fewer than there used to be. But
right.
But I think for you though, I think, things I see in my conversations that are at play, it's a generational shift, and I don't think it's a bad that people are striving a better work-life balance, because the idiots like me that got started, learned from the idiots ahead of us that it was all about an 80-hour work week, and if you didn't put that in, then you weren't dedicated enough, and they browbeat you about it, and that cycle had to be broken. And number two, I think the fact that after 08, we were all asked to do more with less. And there's a breaking point there. You know, you just, like you said, you're going to kill yourself, because most of us as superintendents, most of us were unwilling to let the product sacrifice, right? We didn't want to let the product be less than it was. So where does that get, you know, whose shoulders does that fall on? That's the superintendent and his assistants. And pretty soon they're all burned out. So I think it's a really good thing. You know, it's taken me a while, but I think seeking this balance in our lives is a really healthy thing, and it's going to create longevity that we maybe haven't seen in the last 10 years. So that's a really good observation, Zach. I think you're right on the money. But also a very good segue, because one of my questions was the important stuff, non-work related distractions in your life. I know you're an avid fisherman, and when the weather's right, you're an avid skier. So, what's your favorite river? What if you got an afternoon, where are you headed? Yeah, you don't have to tell me which hole that you're going to. Just give me a general, because you know, I know fishermen won't give their secrets away.
Yeah. Man, I got a really soft spot for the South Platte.
Okay.
In South Park.
And how quickly can you get there?
Currently about an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
So being down in Colorado Springs, it took me an hour. Like, it was just straight west on Highway 24.
Okay.
Took me an hour to get out there. Now, you know, being up in Denver, it's a little bit more.
Sure.
And I do have the South Platte closer to me, like Cheeseman Canyon and Deckers. I can be there a little bit quicker. It's just something about being out there in the high plains on, you know, just nothing around.
Right.
You know, you're looking down, you know, 2,000 yards away, and you got a, you know, thing of buffalo around. So it just that stretch of the stretch of the middle fork of the South Platte is just special to me.
Yeah. Cool.
I love it. I love the, you know, it's just a ton of holes, fun fishing, good views. I mean, the Arkansas has a special one for me too. So does the Colorado.
Right.
Those are my three big ones: the Arkansas, Colorado, South Platte. I don't get over towards Aspen and hit the Frying Pan or the Roaring Fork that often, and or down south, the Gunnison or the Animas in outside of Durango. I fished them all. It just don't.
But that's a time commitment.
Yeah, it's a time commitment. Yeah. Or the Eagle River outside, going west from Vail.
Yeah.
That's some good fishing on that too. So, the Middle Fork of South Platte. Okay. That's my go-to.
Well, and I know in this part of the world, the fishing is much more scenic and quiet this time of year, because most of the fishermen have now traded for a rifle or a bow, and they're out in the field, and the rivers tend to get a little bit quieter, and the flows are down, and things are a little bit easier, and aspens turning color and all that great stuff, man.
Yeah. And that definitely happens here. I mean, I've seen it the past couple weeks. Elk season starts at the end of August here. So
sure.
For bow, and then rifle starts up soon, I think. So, a lot of people trade that in. So, But I will say there's nothing better than, I do like fishing the rivers. I like reading a river, because it's, it's not like fishing Stillwater lakes, right?
Yep.
So it's a little bit, you got to have to read the river, when you're fishing. So I like that. I enjoyed that. I enjoy that challenge. But I will say there's nothing like catching natives on a high alpine lake too, hiking up and going
a little more
12,
technical too, right? That Stillwater is a little more technical. You got to be pretty good at your craft to get those
you gotta it depends on how it's fishing, or you got to get it. I've seen some guys out there, and I'm not like the greatest of fly fishermen. I manage, I'm decent. But I've seen guys out there doing like 100-yard roll cast, and I can do like a 10-foot roll cast.
Holy cow.
I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not that good.
Wow. All right. What's your favorite ski resort?
Man, doesn't matter. Just wherever the best powder is.
Okay.
I'll ski anywhere.
Will you skin in the springtime to find stuff that's once things close down, or you will?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you'll do some backcountry and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I know Breckenridge the best, so I can go to Breck and hit every spot that doesn't get hit by tourists.
Sure.
I just know that place the best. I probably know Vail second best,
Okay.
and then that little Monarch ski area just south of Buena Vista. I know that one pretty well too. So yeah, I mean, I can go to Breck and Vail and Monarch, all three of those. I've spent the most of my time on those three resorts. Even though I've skied, I obviously skied many more resorts than that. But I've spent a lot of my time on those places, and I know where to go when the crowds show up. I know where to go, and I can still find it.
Does your wife ski?
She doesn't at all.
She doesn't at all. So
No.
have you guys discussed when's the right time to get your son on the river and on the ski slopes?
Yeah, we're thinking about the ski slopes this winter.
Okay.
So
right.
he'll be 2.5. He's walking, he's running.
Yeah, it's time to get some boards on. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
time
right.
to slap him some skis. So maybe another couple years with the fishing.
Yeah.
So
I saw
yeah.
a picture on an Instagram feed today, or a video of a guy in a river, just a beautiful setting, and he's got a kid like under a year old in a front pack, and he's roll casting on this river with the kid. And I'm thinking that's almost like a breeding sort of thing at that point. Like you're getting them pretty much from the womb and teaching them how to do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, we've yacked for an hour, believe it or not, and it's been good. But I have one more little thing I call my lightning round, and these are just off the cuff. You just first thing that pops in your head, but this kind of fits in with what we were just talking about. So, with respect to fishing, dry fly or nymph?
Oh, dry fly.
Okay.
Having a trout come up.
My oldest son is really, really good at fly fishing now. He lives in Boise, and although he just got married, so I'm thinking the fishing time is going to be a little bit less than it used to be, but he only nymphs, which is really, to me, that's a lot harder.
Really?
I would much rather dry fly.
Anyway, there's something about fish rising.
I totally agree. And he fishes a lot on the Wahi River in Eastern Oregon. And I think maybe it's just a little bit more in tune with that. But yeah, I totally agree. It's just that whole, it's hunting. It's not really fishing, right? And I love it. Bent grass or POA?
Oh man.
Tough one.
Yeah. That's
Shouldn't be where you are though.
Man, I gotta go with bent grass.
Okay. All right.
Gotta go with bent.
Okay, now the really important one, IPA or stout?
Oh geez. That depends on the time of year. But I'll never turn down an IPA.
So but fall you transition into stout? Is that how that works? Or
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'll start transitioning into the darker beers and right about now.
All right. So you got golf clubs behind you, which are not either one of these, but cavity back or blades?
I barely golf worth a damn, so I need cavity.
So
if I hit a blade, my hands would fall apart.
Okay, last one. Ski or board? I think I know the answer to this.
I've never boarded, so it's always going to be ski.
See, and you're in that generation that I would think would be on a board, but it seems like there's a lot more of you guys that ski, and I don't know where that transition happened, but maybe it's younger that are all on snowboards. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of guys. I don't go with a lot of people who board.
You know Jerry Flaherty, right? He's been a delegate for a long time, and Jerry and he snowboarded. I don't know if he's transitioned back or not, but he used to snowboard and I would ski. And every time I was close, thinking I'm going to try it, I'm going to give it a try, I'd be on a cat track somewhere and some dude would get ahead of me and he'd get his front edge on snow and just completely eat it. And I'm thinking, okay, at my age, that's not going to feel great and I'm not going to recover real quick. So never even tried it either. I've just never had the inclination to do it. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of my friends are, who I go skiing with, they're, backcountry skiers, right? unless you got a split board and you're skinning on a split board, I mean,
Right.
backcountry skiing is,
You got one option.
it's all about having skis and,
Yeah.
And I know I have a few friends who split board, but it's definitely a little bit more inferior than skiing because you don't have the edges. Skis, you got the edges, you got the metal
Right.
edges on both
Right.
sides of your ski. So when you're pinching into a slope, you got that edge. On a split board, you only have an edge on one side, and it's definitely a little bit. I got friends who do it, but not many. It's a lot of skiers. So
yeah, it definitely opens up the shoulder season skiing a little bit more in that regard.
Does. It is nice to have someone with a sled too. So
yeah, that's a good point. Carry a few beers, carry a few IPAs with you, right?
Yeah, that's always nice. If you're not skiing, you're sledding.
Exactly.
So you just drop people off and then go play for a little bit on the sled. So.
Yeah. Well, Zach Bauer, I thank you for being patient with me and jumping on. And I think this will be a fun conversation for guys to listen to. And I wish you the best of luck with the fall projects. I'll see you in November at the annual meeting, but best of luck to everything, and tell your wife I said hello, and thanks again for coming on. This was fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Kevin. It was a lot of fun. Always a pleasure.